Hi everyone, today I'm here with my September wrap up and also magical readathon wrap up. I know it's a little bit late, but better later than never. So what I'm going to do in this video is to tell you whether I passed or not and which challenges I've completed and things like that, and also tell you more about my character and of course to tell you more about the books that I have read. And also future plans for my character in terms of that magical readathon. But first, if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of the magical readathon, that was the magical readathon that G from Book Roast hosted in the month of September. It lasted throughout the whole month and it was a lot of fun. She put a lot of effort. Of course, the link to her videos will be down below for you to check out. And I can tell you that I have passed. I've read 4 books, which means I have completed 4 different challenges. So I'm going to tell you what I read for what challenge, then go through the books, I think, and then at the end I'll tell you more about plans for the future for my character. So the first book that I finished was actually To Fulfill the Prompt for Ashthorn Tree, and that was a book that is tempting you or on top of your TBR, and at that point that was Heartlights by Tim Tilley, which is a cute little middle grade book. So in this one we follow our main character who lives in an orphanage, and there's a horrible woman who is in charge of that orphanage. One day he sees a little cradle that is made out of a walnut or something like that, and there's a tiny little creature in there, so he saves it, takes care of it, and then one day he sees other different little creatures that come after that, and they, as a sign of gratitude, they take him away to the forest to live with them. So that was a cute little book. I enjoyed it. It was nothing really special, I would say, however it sounds really horrible. But I gave it 3 stars. By the way, I'm back on Goodreads. I will try and leave the link to my Goodreads page down below. I haven't done a lot with it, but I have put through all of the books that I read this year so far. There's no profile picture or any friends or anything like that, so I'm still kind of in the process of doing that, but I thought I'd mention it now because I just sat down today and filled up all of the books that I read this year. So yeah, if you want to follow me on Goodreads, the link will be down below, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do it. But yeah, so this book, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I gave it 3 stars, and also it had cute illustrations throughout it as well, which I think is worth mentioning. Sometimes some pages will be like this, and sometimes it would just be a random illustrations here and there. I would say it was quite atmospheric as well, though. I do love stories that are set in a forest, and this was kind of like magical as well, I would say. It's not your... I don't know, I enjoyed it. It was fun, but... yeah, here we go. So the second book I read actually was For Mist of Solitude, and that was to read a standalone, and I read The Telephone Box Library by Rachel Lucas. So in this one we follow our main character who is fed up with her teaching job because it was too stressful, so she moves from Brighton, she moves to a small village somewhere deep into like countryside, and she basically starts again, but she's supposed to be there for 6 months. And there's of course the telephone box library that is being set in motion, and there's a lot to do with Bletchley Park because her 90-something-year-old neighbour had a history with that. This book was not exactly what I expected. There's not a lot about the telephone box library at all, which I thought was the thing that drew me into this book, because I thought it was going to be more about like books and reading and all that. Even here it says books, wine, secrets, you'll find them all at the telephone box library. That's a complete lie, I think, to be honest. Not to say that it was a bad book at all. I still gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it. It was cute, but I think it was more focused on the romantic element rather than the telephone box library, so it didn't have a lot to do with books. I did enjoy the Bletchley Park thing as well. I've visited Bletchley Park before as well, and I do find that part of history rather interesting as well, but the history that was included in here with the neighbour, it was interesting, but it was a little bit underwhelming. So the secret that she was also like referring to throughout the whole book didn't really, I kind of guessed it anyway, and it wasn't anything like wow, it was amazing, it was outstanding, it was perfect. It was just a little bit underwhelming, like I said, so I wasn't a fan of this book. But the romantic element in this book was definitely cute. I definitely really enjoyed it. It wasn't like anything toxic, it wasn't anything stupid, it wasn't anything super dramatic. It was just nicely paced, natural thing, I would say. And I did enjoy our main character as well. She was lovely, she was interesting. I loved the way how she was going on about life and how she was thinking and things like that. So it was a nice little book, but it wasn't a lot to do with the telephone box library. It did appear, but closer to the end of the book, and it didn't really have much to do with the story, where it kind of did, but kind of didn't, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was cute, but nothing special. The next book that I read was for the Novice Path, which is the one I probably should have started with, but it was to read a book with a map in it, and I read A Vow So Bold and Deadly by Bridget Kemmerer for that one. And I can say definitely it was a disappointment again. So I really enjoyed A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was amazing. I fell in love with Gray. He was one of my favourite characters for a long time after I read that book. Which was only at the beginning of this year anyway. Then I read A Heart So Fierce and Broken, and that one was a massive letdown for me. I thought the story wasn't going anywhere at all, didn't like the characters, didn't like much about it, and even Grey was a disappointment in that book. And then this one, I did have some hopes that it was going to redeem itself, but not to me at all. I was disappointed again, still did not like how the story went. Didn't like how in the first one basically felt like main characters just switched, and to me it just didn't feel right, because if you start a story as a Beauty and the Beast retelling and then you change that throughout the whole book completely, so that the first book almost doesn't really make sense, or it does make sense but not massively to what's going to happen in the third book. I'm not trying to spoil anything at all. So yeah, the ending was really disappointing. I thought it really was disappointing, and I'm disappointed in the trilogy as its own. I thought the first book was really good, but the second and third were absolutely not good at all. I think I gave this one 2 stars because I was just genuinely disappointed, and I do think now I'm not going to read anything by Bridget Kemmerer. At first I was interested in her other books, but at the moment I feel like I'm done, and any like fantasy books that she's going to be putting out, unless they sound really interesting to me, I'm not going to be trying them at all. I know that a lot of people didn't like this book as well, so I'm not the only one there, but it's disappointing when I get so excited about YA fantasy books and then books like this happen and ruin the whole trilogy for me. So yeah, disappointment. And then the last book that I finished was for Obsidian Falls, and that was to read a mystery or a thriller, and that one I read A Room Full of Bones by Ellie Griffiths. This is the 4th book in the series, so I've talked about this series I think a few times on this channel, but basically we follow our main character, who's Ruth Galloway. She's a forensic archaeologist who works at a university, so she knows a lot about bones. And we also follow NCI Nelson, who is a detective, and they somehow a lot of the time meet together to solve crimes essentially, so he goes to her for help. What I do like about this series is that I think it's kind of unique, so it's not your normal like mystery thriller thing about things that are happening now. It somehow mixes things that happened in the past, so let's say they found bones, and a lot of the time there'll be obviously something from the past, from centuries ago or something like that, and somehow that is woven into the present day crime, which I find it really interesting and fascinating. Also, it is set like our main character Ruth, she lives in a small house somewhere completely remote, so there are only 2 houses around her. She's by the sea or in the marsh, on the marsh, and so it's quite atmospheric as well. I would say it's definitely perfect for autumn or winter, and I do enjoy these books a lot. I think I gave this one 4 stars, so I'm definitely looking forward to the next ones in the series, because I've got 10 books box set, and now I finally finished book number 4. So yeah, I really enjoy it, and also I think you can read them separately from each other, so you don't have to, I think, follow the story, because also at the end there's like a little summary for what your characters are, what they do and stuff like that. So I think you can read them separately if you really want to. It would be better if you read them in order, but I think think you can read them as standalones as well. But I'll read you the blurb of this one, and it's not going to spoil anything from the past books. So, night falls on Halloween Eve. The museum in King's Lynn is preparing for an unusual event, the opening of a coffin excavated from the site of a medieval church. But when archaeologist Dr. Ruth Galloway arrives to supervise, she finds the museum's curator lying dead beside it. Ruth and Detective Inspector Nelson are forced to cross paths once again when he's called in to investigate the murder, and their past tensions are reignited. And as Ruth becomes further embroiled in the case, she must decide where her loyalties lie, a choice that her very survival depends on. So, see what I mean? Burial of somebody in the past and a current murder. So yeah, I do love these books quite a bit, and I do think they're quite atmospheric, so I would recommend these. So yeah, that is for all of the books that I have finished in the month of September. I was also listening to one audiobook, but I haven't finished it, so I'm going to mention that in my October wrap up. Instead, now I'm going to tell you more about my characters and the future plans. I didn't do any prompts for my character because I just didn't really have the time, and I know you can do it until April. So I've chosen the 3 books to read before then. So for my character, sorry, I'm going to be looking down because I've got it written down. So I'm wilding, my character is wilding, so she's from the wild. And for that you have to read a book largely set in the forest or just outside. For that one I am choosing The Castle of Tangled Magic by Sophie Anderson. I think this one is mostly going to be set in the forest because it looks like it a lot. And throughout the illustrations they do make me think as well that it's going to be set in the forest, and her previous other books would be set in forest and outside a lot, so I don't think that's going to be much different in this one, so I'm really looking forward to it. I did really enjoy the first 2 books by this author. This is a completely different story. They're all standalones, especially The House of Chicken Legs. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really cool. Magic awaits, all you have to do is believe. When 13-year-old Olia steps through a magical doorway, she discovers another land, a land tangled by magic where hope is lost and a scheming wizard holds all the power. Soon Olia learns that she's destined to save this land, but with time running out and her new friends and family in danger, she must search for the magic within herself to save everything and everyone she loves. So I'm excited, I'm looking forward to it, and I'm thinking I might gonna try and read it throughout Readathon, which I'm hoping Gaming's gonna do in November as he normally does. So hopefully I can squeeze that in somewhere, but I'm really looking forward to this one. It has been on my mind for a while now, and I've had it for some time. So it's about time I read it, and it shouldn't take me too long, and I'm genuinely looking forward to it. I think her books are the best for like autumn, winter period, so perfect timing. As for where my character is from, I've chosen Etheria, I think it is, so like a continent of wildlife, forests, and there's a lot of ruins and things like that, so that's exciting. And for that one you have to read a book that features fae or elven characters, and I haven't got a book for that one physically. I thought of rereading A Court of Thorns and Roses, but if I'm honest, I'm also thinking I'm gonna just give up on the series. I'm not 100% sure, so I can't say I'm definitely gonna do that, but I definitely can't say that I'm going to be reading it for sure. Apologies if the angle is slightly changed because my camera overheated, so I had to pause. But I was saying, for the background of my character, I've ordered myself a book and I'm going to show you the cover. I'm going to put a picture here somewhere for you, and it is the first book in a series. It's like Dark Fae, Academy for Dark Fae, which sounds interesting. I think it's like also romantic fantasy potentially as well, which I'm not normally a fan of, but when I went on Goodreads to find Fae books, this one came up and it actually sounds really interesting, and I also really like the cover. So I think out of all of the books that have fae in it, because I'm not normally a fan of books with fae in it, this one is the one I'm willing to give it a go more than others, so I'm hoping to get it soon, and we'll see when I read it, but I'd like to read it because I also do really enjoy books that are set in like academies or schools with magic and stuff like that. I really love those, so hopefully this one's going to be a good one. And then for the race of my character, I've chosen to be Iltyrian, I think it is, and for that you have to read a book with a crow on the cover or title, or a red cover book. So for that one I'm choosing The Storm Crow by Kaylin Josephson. This is one of those fairy books that I've had for a very long time. and it's about time I read it. So it's got crow obviously in the title and on the cover as well, so it does sound intriguing to me. I do believe this one is set in like a kingdom in which there used to be elemental crow magic, but now it's all wiped out, and we've got the main character who, I think she's grieving over her mother's death, and there's kind of a war starting, and there's also elemental crows might not have died, so it could still come back. So I'm really looking forward to this one actually, I think. So I'm hoping I can read it. If I want to DNF that one, I do have another one, The Merciful Crow, that I could use for that challenge, but hopefully I'm gonna enjoy this book and will read this one because it has been on my TBR for a very long time, so it's about time I read it. And if you remember, I did a TBR veteran video. I do think I've mentioned this one as well, so I think it would be really good if I finally read those books that I've had for a long time. So there we go. Also, for my choices as well, I don't know whether you know what I'm talking about, but again, the video will be down below for you to check out. But for the choices, I apparently, according to my choices, now can join the Order of the Crescent, which is natural magic, like elemental magic and things like that. And the thing I'm excited about is having a, what's it called, a familiar. So that'd be cool. I think it would be a cat for me. Absolutely, it would bloody be a cat. So yeah, we'll see what happens in April with the next readathon. We'll see what my choices are going to be like and what it's going to be like to be in the Crescent. So yeah, it was really fun. I had really a lot of fun reading books for this readathon in September. Unfortunately, I didn't really like a lot of them. I mean, I really did enjoy, I mean, it was an alright reading month. Hopefully October will be better. So yeah, please let me know if you participated in this readathon and how you did, what books you read, what was your favourite book of the month of September. Mine would definitely be A Room Full of Bones because I enjoy that one most out of any other one. If you like this video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!